A blessed day, everyone. Welcome to the world of earth science. On the next slides, we will try to know the definition and meaning of the earth science field. So, our agenda today is to answer the question, what is earth science? What does the subject talks about? What are the things that we should know and learn about it? So from the question itself, class, you might notice it tackles mainly about our planet Earth. Okay? So, but does it really talks about it? How do we know that we're dealing things that is in the field of Earth science? Okay? So Earth science in simple definition, it is the study of the Earth and its neighbors in space. So it includes all the fields of natural science related to the Earth and deals with the physical and chemical constitution of the Earth, its atmosphere and ocean, and its interaction in space. Okay, so it also involves how the natural world interacts with surroundings. So it's also an exciting science with many um, interesting and practical applications. Like, for example, some earth scientists use their knowledge to use their knowledge of the earth to locate and develop energy and mineral resources. Others study the impact of human activity on Earth's environment, and some use their knowledge about Earth's processes such as earthquakes and volcanoes and hurricanes to plan communities that will not be exposed to these dangerous events. Okay, so many different sciences are used to learn about the Earth. However, there are only four basic areas of Earth science. Okay, these are geology, astronomy, oceanography, and meteorology. Okay, so first is astronomy. It tackles about and how the Earth relates in space and time. Second, we have the meteorology. It talks about how atmospheric conditions relate to weather and climate. And oceanography, on the other hand, it shows us how marine interacts in the ocean. And lastly, geology, it addresses how the Earth's landforms and rock change over time. Okay, so these four sciences collectively seek to understand Earth and its neighbor in space. Okay, understanding Earth science is challenging because our planet is a dynamic body with many interacting parts and a complex history. So, throughout its long existence, Earth has been changing. And in fact, it is changing as you are listening to this presentation and will continue to do so in the future. Okay, furthermore, studying the realms of earth science, it requires an understanding and application from your previous science subjects, and the knowledge I yeah, it requires an understanding and application of knowledge and principles from your previous science subjects. So physics, chemistry, and biology. To sum it all up, These are the sciences that seek to expand our knowledge of the natural world and our place in it. Okay, so a brief explanation of these sciences will be presented on the next slide. Okay, let me ask you a question, class. What comes into your mind when you hear the word about geology? You might think of rocks, right? Okay, so these are the terms that deal in the field of geology, from rocks, minerals, and to land structures that you may have known, Mount Everest and volcanoes that you are familiar of. So you might also to think about the land itself. Okay. So and if you have watched Dr. Stone, you will surely know uh, the definition of the term geology. Okay. So in the next slide, let us visualize. Okay. So the land you walk into if you go on a trip, the majestic volcano eruptions that you see often in the news, um, the rocks that you used to play with your friends, are all about geology. You might also be interested with fossils in some documentary movies and with the legends and stories that interpret mountains and shining, shimmering um, minerals and gemstone that you can see from the jewelries of your parents. Okay, so we define the term geology as the study of the earth. So it includes all the materials. It includes the materials that make up earth, the processes that form and change the materials, and the history of the planet and its life forms. Okay, so geology divided into two broad areas, the physical and historical geology. The physical geology, it examines the materials composing Earth and seeks to understand the many processes that operate beneath and upon its surface. Okay. It also deals with the materials that constitute our Earth. So the structure and surface features and the processes that have given the Earth its present appearance. Okay, so the processes and forces of which include the internal processes that creates earthquakes and build mountains and produce volcanic structures, and the external purpose and the external processes and forces that aims of destruction, meaning it breaks apart rocks and sculpt a broad array of landforms, thus creating diversity of landscapes. Okay, and historical geology, on the other hand, is to understand the origin of the Earth and the development of the Earth through its 4.6 billion year history. So it strives to establish an orderly chronological arrangement of the multitude of physical and biological changes that have occurred in the geologic past. It also deals with the history of the Earth, its changing phase and structures, and the changing forms of living things. Okay, so like what I said earlier, Earth is a dynamic and ever-changing planet. Okay, so the internal forces, it creates earthquakes, build mountains, and produce volcanic structures, while at the surface, the external processes break rocks apart and sculpt a broad array of landforms. If you think of geology class, it is somewhat a kind of adventure that you want to experience. Okay, so next, let me ask you a question again. What comes into your mind when you hear the word about meteorology? You might think about natures. Hmm. Let us together solve the mystery of what is meteorology is. Okay, so these are the terms um, that deals in the field of meteorology. So from weather to climate to the things that you've heard in the radio and television, like when a typhoon is coming, or to the weather forecast you used when deciding whether or not to bring an umbrella. And you might also think about climate change and to look also in the sky. Okay, so and if you have watched Weathering with You, which story um, talks about the girl that can manipulate the weather. Okay, so now let's define in the next slide what is meteorology. Okay, meteorology in its broadest sense, it is the study of the Earth's atmosphere. Okay, it includes the processes that causes the atmosphere to change and produce weather and climate. The study of meteorology is of critical importance in protecting Earth's environment. The meteorological phenomena are observable weather events which illuminate and are explained by the science of meteorology. Okay, these events are bound by the variables that exist in Earth's atmosphere. It also examines the mixtures of gases that is held to the planet by gravity and thin rapidly with altitude. Get acted on by the combined effects of Earth's motion and energy from the Sun, and influenced by Earth's land and atmosphere, reacts by producing an infinite variety of weather, which in turn create the basic pattern of global climate. Okay, so if you think of meteorology class, it is somewhat a kind of a dream that you want to experience. Okay, so uh, let me ask you a question again. Okay, so what comes into your mind when you heard the word about oceanography? Um, you might think about oceans, right? And yes, you're not mistaken. It talks primarily about our oceans. Okay, so these are the terms that deal in the field of oceanography. So, from the marine life that is found in our seas and oceans to the currents of the coastline that we often surf, at the beach that we splash upon, and to the mystery deep below. And if you have watched Finding Nemo, You usually know the definition of oceanography. And basically, the story talks about the whole ocean itself. Okay, the next, now let's visualize it on the next slides. Okay, so oceanography, in its broadest sense, is the study of the Earth's oceans. It includes the creatures that inhabit salt water, measures different physical and chemical properties of the ocean, and observe various processes in these bodies of water. So, moreover, class, it tackles the physical, chemical, and biological features of the ocean, including the ancient history, its current condition, and its future. Actually, oceanography is not a separate and distinct science. Rather, it involves the application of all sciences in a comprehensive and interrelated study of the oceans in all their aspects and relationships. So, oceanography integrates chemistry, physics, geology, and biology. So, it includes the study of the composition and movements of seawater, as well as coastal processes, seafloor, topography, and marine life. So, oceanography talks about mainly our waters in our ocean. So, from the surface and to the uh, deepest part of it. So, our oceans are so vast that we only research about 5% of the um, total area of the oceans. So that is why it remains a mystery to us human. So, but soon, with technology advancements, we will know the mystery that will still hiding below. So, if you think of oceanography, Moana might want you to sail the sea with you, or Poseidon will adopt you as his child. Okay. So lastly, what comes into your mind when you heard the word about astronomy? You might think about um, our planet, right? You might think about our planet and sun, right? And yes, class, indeed, it talks about the things beyond us. Okay, so these are the term that deals in the field of astronomy. So from um, from the planets that we have memorized in our elementary grades to the vast galaxies that were mentioned in our books, you might know about the exploration of NASA and the satellite and rockets that were sent outside because of our curiosity. Sometimes we also wonder if there are aliens outside too. So, and if you have watched Doctors, I mean, if you have watched Guardian of the Galaxy, you will surely know the definition of the term astronomy. Okay, now let's visualize it on the next slides. So, astronomy, it talks about the things that we look up in the sky at night. Okay, so the lovely moon that shines in its light for us, and the twinkling stars that made us dream at night, the planets that revolves around our sun, and the comets and shooting stars that fascinate us. Okay, all of these things that we watch to the night sky are all about astronomy. Okay, so astronomy in its broadest sense, it is the study of the Earth's beyond. Okay, so it includes the sun, the moon, stars, planets, comets, gas, galaxies, dust, and other non-earthly bodies and phenomena. It uses mathematics, um, physics, and chemistry in order to explain their origin and evolution. Also, class astronomy demonstrates that an understanding of Earth requires that we relate our planet to the larger universe because Earth is related to all the other objects in space. The science of astronomy, um, the study of the universe, is very useful in proving the origins of our own environment. Okay, so if you think of astronomy, our resident aliens would want you to take for a trip in their own galaxy. Okay, so the Earth science, it's studying the impact that humans have on Earth and how natural processes affects us, provide vital information for our future as a species. Okay, so our future depends on understanding how the earth can provide food, water, and energy for our growing population. Okay, so the primary focus of earth science is to uh, develop understanding of basic principles, but along the way, we explore numerous important relationships between people and the environment. Many of the problems and issues addressed by the earth sciences are of practical value to people. Okay, so with respect to the environment, earth science also deals with natural hazards since it is part of living here on earth. Okay, among the hazardous natural processes studied by the scientists includes volcanoes, floods, tsunami, earthquakes, landslides, and hurricanes. Remember that they become hazards only when people try to live where these processes occur. Next, it deals with resources and raw materials since it is an important focus that is of great practical value to people. It includes water and soil, a great variety of metallic and non-metallic minerals, and energy. So together they form the very foundation of modern civilization, and earth science does not only deal, I mean, earth science deals not only with the formation and occurrence of these vital resources, but also with maintaining supplies and with the environmental impact of their extraction and use. Lastly, we have population growth. This means a ballooning demand for resources and a growing pressure for people to dwell in. to dwell in environments having a significant natural hazards. Okay, and then um, that sums up for everything. I hope that you have learned from today's discussion. Goodbye for now and see you on our next discussion. Thank you for listening.